Hello, this is Mike at Gamefromscratch, and welcome back to our tiled tutorial series. Today we are going to be looking at something called automapping. It's a little scary at first. It's extremely scary if you read the wiki, but at the end of the day, it's not really that complicated. Basically, it's a find and replace engine. It's a set of rules for finding and replacing patterns that match up. So if you think about it that way, it's not really that scary. So let's jump in with a very, very simple example. What we're just going to do is have it, wherever it finds one tile, it's going to replace it with another tile. About the simplest example you can get. Probably the least useful you can get, but that's either near here nor there. So let's create us a new map. Why do I have nothing showing up? Let's turn on the grid. Show me the grid. All right. So first things first, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to paint this map, I guess, using the top left tile here, like so. Actually, that's a little overkill. So I'm going to pop in a few, oops, not paint, there. We're going to stamp in a couple of this tile. Just picked it at random. It's white sand with a little bit of a fringe going on. And now what we're going to do is wherever we find that tile, say we're going to instead swap it out for this one. So that's the rule we're going to make. And in order to make rules, really all you're doing is you're creating another tile map that gets matched up. So first thing, we need to go ahead and create that tile map. It's going to be pretty simple, so we'll just make it 8 by 8. It doesn't even need to be that big. So, but it does need to match in the size. So your tiles will have to match up. So let's go ahead and create that. So we now have this second one, and we'll call this Rule 1. And you know what, Untitled works for me there. Alright, so we have this new tile set named Rule 1, and we used this tile as our source. So what we do is in Rule 1, we have to create, and we have to match our names up here. There's some very important names that match between your source and your destination. So we'll go into our first one. Our source one here, we'll call this layer, I don't know, ground, like so. So in this layer, now what we're going to do is we're going to take input and output. So there's 3 values you must specify. Input, which is kind of your source or your find. Output, which is your replace. And then region, which is sort of your selected area. Region can be whatever you want, but we need to have all 3 of these layers defined in our rule. So we have input, ground. So this name, ground, has to match up with the source layer. So input, ground, output, ground, and one more tile layer, and we shall call the region. So region is the area affected. We'll put that at the bottom. So that is defined as basically the size of our sampling. So the number of tiles in the region is the number of things it's going to try and match on the input and output. So first off, let's create our, oh, we don't have a tile set yet, so we got to match our tile set up. Load our tile set in like so. So once again, all we're trying to do for this initial rule is find this tile and replace it with, say, this tile. Nothing more. So our first set basically is so how big of a sample size are we using? And we're using only a single tile, so we need to define it as a single tile. That could be anywhere, by the way, so we could have also done that right there. Stop painting. All right, draw single tile. So it could be anywhere on your map. We'll just use it right there. This could also be a 1-by-1 map if we wanted to make it work that way. So we just defined that basically our region is this big. You can use whichever tile you want. It also might make sense to actually paint one or specific tile in there, like a solid black or something image in your tile source, so that you can see that you're marking a region. But a region just simply is either there's a tile there or there's not. It's just like a Boolean value. So just having anything there marks the region as on or off. So it doesn't matter which tile you used. So now we're saying, okay, what tile are we looking for? What tile are we matching against? So once again, in our source, it's this tile, right? So we're saying for our input with the layer named ground, we are searching for this tile, okay? And now what we're going to say is, and if we find that tile, our output, which is this guy, shall be this layer, like so. So that's it. That was our simple rule defined. So more or less, you can think of it as a find and replace. Region says find one tile, so it's saying the scope of your find. The input is saying which tile to look for, which is this whitish one, and the output is saying replace it with this one. And that's really all that auto mapping does. It's just a very complicated find and replace engine. So we've defined that. Let's save our rule. Now we come back here. Now first things first, if we go to do AutoMap now, we're going to get this error message basically saying that rules.txt does not exist. So in the directory where your TMX is located, in this case my desktop file, you need to create a file called rules.txt and provide the list of the rules you're using. So the rule is rule1.tmx. So all we do is we go to that directory, say new, and text file, and we'll call you rules1.txt, like so. And all you put in there is a new line separated list of rules to apply. Like so. And that's it. So you could have multiple rules in a single file, just put them each on a new or separate line. I believe they process from top to bottom if that matters. Okay, so now we have our rule defined. So if I come in here now and go map, AutoMap, my rule is not defined. Map, AutoMap, rules.txt. Why did I call you rules1? Alright. It helps to actually get the name right. Alright, that's how I'm back now. And map, AutoMap. Why did I not have a layer defined? I have a layer defined. Region. Input, output. Save. Did you forget an underscore and layer region? Oh, I think what I did forget. So you can have defined regions, regions in, regions out, or you can just have regions as a whole. And I think I just named it wrong. So there, what you're seeing here though is this naming convention is very important. It needs to be input underscore, it needs to be output underscore, and it needs to be regions, apparently plural. Let's try that again. So there. That was me hitting A, and all of a sudden it went and it substituted that one tile for the other. That's it. That is auto mapping done. Now what you might want to know is why the hell this is useful, because you could have just as quickly gone in and did that calculation yourself. No problems, right? Well, then you can get into some very kind of sophisticated rules. Now, another thing I'm going to show you here, so you can actually have multiple rules in the same rule set. So right here, we had this one. Now we're going to go ahead and just do almost an identical one. So we have to define our region first. Our region is whatever tile we want, like so. Again, our input is whatever tile we want to start with, like so. And our output is whatever tile we want to end with, like so. So now we have two regions defined, one for turning sand into brick, and the other one now for flipping red flowers. So now we go, so we'll save that. So now you see we got two regions set. And we'll head on back to our TMX file. We shall put in, and we shall put in like so. And now I run it, and you will see they both ran. So you can have multiple rules in a single rule file, or multiple find and replaces going on at once. You just define them in here. And again, as I told you earlier, you can have multiple TMX files as multiple sets of rules. Now, one thing that is important though, these are two distinct sets. This, on the other hand, will cause issues because now it's going to look for this matching set. But you can do this, for example. So let's say if I want to turn grass into brick, you can have a 4x4 and a 4x4. So let me just show you that. So our region first needs to be defined. So we're going to use a 4x4 chunk. Again, the tile you use does not matter. We're going to take our input source, so grass or sand, and then our output source or output results, grass. Okay, so now it's going to be smart enough. We'll save that out. We'll go over to our auto type and we will create a desert and magically turn it to grass. So you can have multiple tiles side by side, but if they're neighboring each other, they're going to be assumed to be part of the same same rule. So that's why when you're creating these, you have to put these spaces in between them like we have. So if I put something else here, it's going to be considered part of it. Here is a distinct and separate entity. Okay, so that's a very key point to get. But that is essentially it. Now there's a couple of really neat tricks we can pull off here. And that's where auto mapping starts becoming very, very, very handy. And let me just show you some. I mean, our rule here is getting a little gibberishy, so let me do some maintenance here. So get rid of the output, get rid of the input, get rid of the region. Okay, so now let's say you have So see all these different grasses I have? These beautiful, beautiful grasses to work with. And say we wanted to paint with this one. So what we could actually do is create a cell or a tile for grass and then randomly throw a couple out. Let me just show you. Here, we'll start completely from fresh. So this looks more... erase everything there. Erase everything there. And erase everything there. Okay, so this is a fresh rule we're defining here. And what I want to do is I want to take this grass as our source. So this top left tile is going to be our input in our region. So our region is going to be 1 in size. It's going to look for and match this tile, so this top grass. But then on our output, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here, I'm going to grab our output, and I'm going to duplicate the hell out of it, like so. And we have and then output 1 ground, output 2 ground, output 3 ground, output 4 ground. I'm guessing you can guess this one. Alright, I'm officially bored of doing that, so let's just get rid of these two. Alright, so we now have 1 input, but we have 7 outputs. So if it looks for this grass, it's going to grab it. But now what it'll do is it'll output randomly one of these 7 entities. So let's define each one. So for output 1, we'll pick a different grass. Output 2, we'll pick this little tuft over here. Output 3, we shall pick this little tuft over here. Output 4, we'll use that one. Output 5, we shall use that one. And output 6, we shall use that one. So now, instead of having to paint all your grass by hand, you can paint a singular grass. So let's save our rule. We shall head back to our map, which is, I think, full of the grass we want to use anyways, but let me just make sure. Paint that sucker out. Alright, that appears to be the right grass. So now, when I do our AutoMap or press the A key, it'll randomly grab one of those 7 different sources we've done. So one immediate use is for doing randomization, as you saw, and we can here, undo it. Oh, I can't undo it. All right, not undoable. But as you saw, so very quick explanation again. It will find this tile, and then you press A, and it will randomly replace it with any of the 7 outputs. Very, very, very handy stuff. Now, on top of that, you sometimes also will have collision layers. And I think we're probably getting confusing here, so let's just go ahead and create a new map, like so. And sometimes you're going to have objects that you're going to want to collide with. And this is getting ahead of ourselves a bit because we don't actually have any object layers defined or anything yet. I'm going to explain this a little bit later on, but sometimes you're going to want to use an entity within your tile map to represent a tile that you can or can't walk over, or a tile that has special meaning, etc. And this can also be done using the automapping or the automap functionality. Oops, wrong guy. All right, where's my recorder? There it is. So for example, let's say you discover a rock in your world. So whenever you paint a rock, you also want to say you can't walk here. And let's show you how to do this. Now first off, I'm going to take things and I'm going to mix it up slightly. I'm going to take that tile set I've been using over and over again. I'm going to take a copy of it. All right, that was from my downloads. Oh, high fantasy. This was also, coincidentally, this set, these tiles I'm using were part of the Humble Bundle a few weeks back. So great little set of tiles if you're looking for it. I forget where they are now, to be honest. I don't know where you can buy them, which is not really useful advice if I'm honest. Okay, so I'm going to take this image here and paste it there. Now, again, this is a 32 by 32 collection of pixels. No border, no padding, no anything like that. Now I'm going to just open them up in just my default editor. It's you. That's annoying. All right, let's open it up in something better. Paint on that. Okay. So now what I want to do is I actually want to take the first like 32 pixels here. So from pixel 00 to 31, and I'm going to define just a red tile, so it's going to show up a little bit better for this example. So all I'm doing is I'm just editing the source image. As you can see, it's just made up of 32 by 32 pixel tiles, a whole bunch of them. And now what I want to do is go to 0 and 0. Selection top left, 0, 0. You can see at the bottom left corner my selection radius. It's 32 and down. There we go. So that is our top left tile essentially. And what I want to do is make it red. All right. So I'm just modifying our tile map a little bit. So now let's head on back in to you. Okay. So we have, let's do this all from scratch. Discard. Get rid of our rule. All right. So we have a new map we're going to create here. Let's load in the tile sheet that we just modified. So that will now be on my desktop as opposed to elsewhere. Okay. So now we just have this special tile we can work with as well for marking things. So what I'm going to use it specific for is marking a collision square. And now, I need my rule again. I guess I'll open and reuse rule 1. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, rule 1 is now borked. So let us, I think I did a move instead of a copy, which was a bit of an oops. So my source tile set does not exist in that directory anymore. My bad. Okay, so we'll have to create that guy again. And we'll make it much smaller. We'll go with 4 by 4 this time. I believe I called that rule 1 last time. TMX going to give it to you. All right, so that is our rule here. Here's our source. And what we're going to do now is take, I don't know, what looks like a rock. That looks like a rock. So we're going to say whenever we encounter this, we don't want to be able to walk through it. So I'm going to use that as my source. And we'll start, we'll make a very, very, very boring map. So let's paintbrush in that guy. And then, so there, ooh, I'm still in fill. I don't want that. Okay. Draw there, 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 and there. So whenever we see that, we want to make a collision layer around it. All right, so now we're going back to our rule. So there's our source map. That's what we're going to work with. Yeah, you're untitled. Yes, replace it. And we shall now call the ground layer. Okay, so now we got to set up our rule. Once again, we got to set up those 3 different layers. Our first one is regions, plural, as we saw, important. Our second one is input ground, or our source. Our third one is output ground, or our destination. And really, very, very simple. Oh, I need to open our tile set. And our tile set, it's this guy. Okay. So really, all we're doing is our region is a 4x4 section of rock. Our input is a 4x4 section of rock, and I did a typo here. Our output is a 4x4 section of rock. Nothing really exciting. So basically, kind of ironically, let's fix my typo first. Again, these names are very important. They have to match up to the naming scheme that is dictated to you. So here you've got your source region, which is the amount of space to occupy, the input that it's matching for, and the output. And this is literally just taking what's coming in and spitting the exact thing back out. So let's save that and run. Now, predictably, it's doing nothing because our source and destination are exactly the same. But now what we want to do is define a collision layer. And this is where AutoMapping starts showing some power. So let's head on back over here to our rule. So now we're going to go and create one more layer. It can be an object layer. We'll go to the tile layer. It's easy enough. We'll cover object layers in very, very shortly. So output collisions, like so. Actually, you know what? If I went with ground, I should stick with singular. All right, output collision. Now this layer is just going to consist of that. And that's our special tile that's going to represent tiles you can't walk on, and that's it. So now, save that rule and head on back here. So you see our source, we have the ground layer coming in, and now I'm going to go ahead and run the auto. So map AutoMap, and boom, we now have a brand new layer up here for defining our collisions. And it's that simple. So you can now define collision properties quite simply in your source material and have it automatically create the layers in your map. So as I create new rocks like so and add them into my scene and then run it, boom, there's a collision data too. And of course we can turn that collision data off and on. But that is where your AutoMap starts getting very, 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 very powerful. Now there's a couple other things it can be used for as well. You could do things like if it finds a coastline, it will automatically create it, or a cornering. So let's say we've got this source here, and we can do one. I'm going to probably screw this up because the macro rules are a little weird. But instead, so that was collisions. Now let's do another rule. Now I suddenly wish this was a little bit bigger. I wonder if I can get away with this. Let's try and map, resize map. Yeah, all right. We'll go with 8 by 8 instead. I want a little bit of space to do this rule. So this next one, so we can nicely, this red is very handy because we can actually use it nicely to mark our region out as well. Because again, if anything goes in region that you want, it's just basically saying here's the shape of the tiles being affected. So our region is a bend, okay? And our input source is, say, this rock here is found here, and this rock here is found here. So if that is found, if it ever finds this set, then what we're going to do in our output source is add the corner, like so. And we don't have a collision. So we'll just go ahead and save that. So now let me just go on back to the map. And you can start seeing where AutoMapping can be very powerful. So let's say then we've got this comes up and runs into this corner like so. And now let's run the AutoMap. And you see it automatically filled in that corner for us. So you can use it for, you can use it sort of like like you did with the terrain tool for making rules for how, here's how water meets a shore, here's how you join two corners with the matching terrain types, etc. And that's about it. That is what the auto rule is about. Like if you go to the tiled website, there's a bit more detail on how to use it, but it's confusing as hell. And the AutoMapping system really isn't that hard. Again, just remember, it's a glorified find and replace. It's a powerful find and replace with a set naming convention, but that's really all it is. It's a find and replace engine. And I hope we've shown you enough so you can see the power of it and how it can be used. So that's it for now. I think in the next one we'll probably cover object layers and possibly integration with code. So we might finish it up in the next one, or I might split that into two. I'm not entirely certain. But right now we have covered pretty much every single thing you need to use tiled effectively and really get the most out of it. So the next, again, we're going to look at using objects next, which is embeddable game stuff that you can use. Another thing that I'm probably going to cover on a little bit more, I touched on this earlier, but you can also use shapes in your scene. So I'll probably cover that a bit too. Then other than that, we're going to look at actually an example of loading this stuff up in code. Haven't figured out which language I'm going to use yet, but it'll be fun. I'm sure of it. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed that. See you soon. Bye.